Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Ninja Warrior podcast. Tonight, we are recording this very late. This video is very delayed, but we're talking about Sasuke 43, people. So to put into context here, we're recording this on January 16th, and the previous planned release date for this episode was tomorrow. That ain't happening. So this is, I hope this podcast isn't as long as Sasuke 42 is, because that one was, I think that's the longest podcast ever, being a full 2 hours in recording time. Today we definitely don't have that time, so we might do this in 2 parts recording-wise, as well as, in, the actual podcast, but we're gonna have to see. It all depends on how much we have to say about the tournament, which could be more, could be less. There's a lot to this tournament. Yeah, I mean, we have gotten a lot of our early stuff out, but there's still a lot of topics we're going to be going on about for this episode. Yeah, and additionally speaking, there's also the preliminary discussion, which is something we didn't do. We hadn't started when we did Sasuke 42. Now, we had debated skipping this for this episode because of how long this episode is going to be. But we decided that there's still a topic that I'd love to discuss with you guys. In addition, you know, these usually don't last a lot long, so we'll just go off the cup. We'll see. Probably gonna keep it to a minimum of like 10 minutes, like a max, so nothing wrong there. But the topic I'd like to discuss with you guys is with the addition of the world round in Sasuke. What Americans or just international competitors in general would you guys love to see in Sasuke now that this has kind of opened the door for so many people who we've known would have done well in Sasuke, at least now have the potential to possibly get invited with more spots available? I mean, I know the first thought is Taylor Green and Vance Walker. You know, the top two, the top women and top male in America right now. Like, I think they absolutely have good shots. Yeah, I mean, Vance is a Keith Con say twice. Like, as long as his cerebral palsy is, you know, as long as all those surgeries aren't going to be a problem by the time Sasuke is holding their auditions or whatever, if they do to invite decent foreigners, I think Vance is a pretty good shot. Yeah, one of the athletes in the world round, and we'll talk about her a lot later when we get into the world round, which give me in a little bit here, is Addie Herman. And the fact that she's so young kind of opens the door up for a lot of other teenagers to possibly get in here to where the people who start in NWP 13, they're around 18 or in that ballpark, meaning that, I guess, technically speaking, they could just fly them over to Japan. Yeah, I mean, I guess you should look up, like, what are the Pacifics, but, like, still, like, it qualifies a lot of them to get in here at this point. Yeah, I will say it definitely does hinder a lot of their chances, especially for this upcoming season of Sasuke 44. But when it comes down to it, that's a pretty big future. So, yeah, those two are pretty big probabilities. Who else do you think has a good shot to possibly make it there sometime? I feel like Kai has a pretty good shot. Like, he has climbed stage 4 in AEW and won the most recent season. I think he has a pretty reasonable shot, too. Yeah, and I think we have to throw out Noah Munio, too. Like, I know he hasn't really been given the spotlight AEW is so far, but if Addy got to Sasuke, you'd think Noah would want to go there, too. Yeah, definitely. He wasn't there with her, which is a little surprising. I think at least on the sidelines. But either way, Noah has a pretty good shot, too. Is there anyone else that, like, really is, like, on the cups of, like, could possibly get there? I feel like everyone else doesn't have as high of a chance, but people like Josiah Papel and Jay Lewis and, maybe older style veterans who have been in Sasuke doing on like Flip and James McGrath and David Campbell, just, like, people who are still competing in AEW now and have been on Sasuke before via the early AEW seasons. I'm honestly shocked they haven't been invited back yet. Like Brent was in Sasuke 32. Like, that kind of stuff, I feel like that still has a shot of happening. Yeah, because again, like, with the amount of spots we have now, again, the producers of Sasuke are opening their eyes to all these international competitors. Yeah, definitely. Let's try to lean this into some of the Australian ninjas. Some of these Australian, France, and all these people. Who do you think else could possibly get in? I mean, we don't know the international scene all that well, to be fair, but I think I'm kind of surprised wasn't here was Bryson Klein and Tim Sheaf. Yeah, especially because of the fact that we had fucking Sean McCall in here, which we'll get to later. I am definitely shocked that Bryson Klein and Tim Sheaf weren't here as well, because they've As far as I know, they've been top dogs in International Ninja for a while now. Yeah, definitely. Tim Sheaf could be amazing for that UK representation. I will say though, when we get into the world round people, a lot of people in that world round have done some amazing things. Things in their respective nations, Ninja Warrior, to where I think 2 of them acclaimed Kondenseiha during the previous year of their seasons, and we of course have Winnet. Another athlete I'm surprised we didn't actually see is Winnet Kase, who has made stage 4 in Sasuke 37, as well as making stage 3 in Sasuke, I think it was 40 that he competed in. He didn't last, so just due to his veteran status, I'm a little surprised he wasn't here. Oh yeah, definitely. Like, we did have some representation from Ninja Warrior Germany, but nothing on this level, nothing on his level, so, like, it felt really weird that he wasn't there. Like, really weird. Yeah, definitely, for sure. I will definitely say that some of the people they did pick were awkward picks, but we can talk more about that in the, when we actually get into the world round itself. Yeah, in the future, I definitely want to release a video with a comprehensive list of people who could do possibly well in Sasuke and who have a decent shot of getting on there. It really just depends on your status in the Ninja world and who they're looking out for. So I'd say Taylor and Vance have pretty good chances, have like the best chances at the moment. But some of the other people we mentioned, like Papel and Lewis and all those other people have some shots as well in terms of the American side. And just in general, like, some people will surprisingly absent from this world round, so they definitely have a shot to return next time as well. Yeah, definitely. So I guess that means we can move on to stage 1 in its obstacles. Yeah, like I said before, we'll definitely expand on this topic further in my video, which I don't know when I'll make it. It probably will be much closer to Sasuke 44 actually coming out, so its predictions actually mean something, but I kind of just wanted to have a brief discussion with you guys, but yeah, let's head into stage 1. This Sasuke event, Sasuke tournament, it's fairly different from the previous tournaments to where, it's a 2-day event, so the stage 1 was covered over the course of a 4-hour broadcast, while the world round and then stages 2, 3, and 4 were covered in another 4-hour broadcast, which made this tournament kind of weird to watch. Made us have a huge long talk about how we're going to cover it. But we'll get there in half a second. Let's start with stage 1's obstacle, starting with the new first obstacle, the Shin Prism Seesaw. Now, this is not a completely new obstacle to Sasuke. I don't think there's really much to say on the original version, but there was the Prism Seesaw was originally seen in both Kunoichi, but also Sasuke 13, which is its lone appearance from my research. It's basically just a much smaller, the Shin version is basically just a much smaller version that was made very difficult by the combination of it in the rolling hill, as well as also to the weather, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but that definitely did cause some problems with this obstacle. Yeah, it being smaller kind of just meant that, like, if you weighed too much, you had to be very specific with your jump. I will say I do like the addition of, like, the little cliffhanger ledge they have in the middle of it just to help people hang on. I think that made it at least a little bit more forgiving. Some people really got it down to where they just jumped in the middle and then jumped straight to rolling hill. I think that's definitely the strategy, but a lot of people just got launched from left and right or had very surprising fails because they just didn't know how to handle it, and that kind of sucked. Yeah, it's definitely a situation to where we'll get there, but there's a lot of those that we're going to be talking about. In addition, it took a very long time for people to start getting past the Prism Seesaw and Rolling Hill combos, because, the Rolling Hill is just the hardest it had been in previous years. There was a very interesting piece of trivia with the Rolling Hill, to where for more than half the tournament, it was apparently jammed by a competitor, to where someone broke it, and then they just never fixed it, which made it slightly easier, to where you could jam your feet inside the first two spinners, and then you were fine. So, yeah, that was a thing. When was this, actually? Because I did not know this. I watched a review of Sasuke 43 before we do this podcast to kind of help prep for it, and they mentioned it, and I'm like, oh, okay. So, yeah, that's that. But, yeah, it was one of the things that they had mentioned in the review. Okay, so, after that, we have we have 2 more returners from the previous Sasuke tournament. One, Screwdriver, which I believe received no modifications, but I feel like it really should have gotten something. Yeah, like we said last year, I think just making it faster and allowing you to get it on a second round would be nice. So just make it a little bit more difficult because this thing did literally no damage at all, really. Yeah, I don't know how many people failed it, but not many, even with showing the podcast went on just in general. Not many people failed this thing, or even had any difficulty with it at all. So it kind of sucks that people have kind of just figured it out. So it would honestly be nice if it received some kind of modification. I still like it as an obstacle. It's a really cool idea. But again, if competitors were just tasked more agility based to where they had to actually like sprint afterwards to actually catch it, I think honestly that would make a huge difference. Yeah, because even like the weather stuff didn't affect it. No, not really. After that, we have the Fishbone Reverse, which counts as a new obstacle for some reason. Even though I didn't even notice it was different. Yeah, so apparently the Fishbone was spinning counterclockwise this year instead of clockwise, meaning that everyone's previous timing of it was kind of thrown on its head. I wouldn't count this as a new obstacle, but Sasukepedia counts it as such. In addition to that, it did trip up some people as well, which is stupid. Yeah, like I said just now, I didn't notice throughout the entire thing because I don't know Japanese, so yeah, we'll definitely get into how that kind of harms our viewing of this tournament in particular. But me not knowing Japanese made me not really realize that this thing was going backwards because I watch Sasuke once a year and that's it. Like, you guys have to realize that the three of us are very much casual Sasuke fans and that we rarely watch a tournament more than once. And then for the podcast, we only watch select ones for a second time to help us cover them. So, yeah, that's about it. Yeah, after that we have the DX, which I think is a pretty neat modification to the Twin Diamond. Yeah, it definitely tricks some people up for sure. I think it was the flip of the obstacle kind of needed. Yeah, maybe not necessarily, but a very nice addition to the course. And caused a lot of surprising fails. It was a nice presence. Yeah, after that we have the standard Dragon Glider from previous years. I believe the dismount was moved. And I believe the dismount was moved a couple extra feet because some people did fail that too. Yeah, there was some kind of modification, but it still did the normal amount of damage it usually does. A couple ninjas here and there. A lot of the older vets have a lot of trouble with it, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But the Dragon Glider has always had an awkward place here, in my opinion. Yeah, for that we have the standard tackle and then warp wall combo. This combo on its own is pretty easy at this point. It's been there since Sasuke 36, since Sasuke 35, and since like the warp wall was made the end of the course and everything. So it really didn't matter in that case. But the interesting situation we were having throughout this tournament, at least when it came down to the ones before the world round, was the weather, to where Wayne was heavily, and I mean heavily, affecting the filming of Stage 1, to where they had to put down mats on the course, and overall people were slipping and sliding left and right. Not only just on sidelines, to where people had to wear raincoats, also just legitimately on the course it was fucking raining, and we never really mentioned this last time. We mentioned it briefly, but we never really mentioned how Sasuke doesn't care about Wayne and just has the competition go on because of how in advance they schedule these things. At least I assume that's why they don't wait for the weather to stop being the case. Yeah, I also think climate change plays a big part in this because of where Japan is geographically. Like, I don't know the Pacifics at all, but like I feel like that's the main reason why they get all this rain and stuff, and you have to do the course in these harsh conditions, and I think that affects a lot of people. Like, we'd probably see a lot more veterans just make it through if it weren't for those weather things, because it does stuff like make the Dragon Glider bar more slippery. It does make the fishbone harder. It definitely affected with the Prism Seesaw, to where a lot of people just fucking slipped and fell. Rolling Hill has always been made more difficult with Wayne, and it definitely hindered the warp wall, though on a lesser extent, because they actually did do an attempt to fix it to where they put a net behind in front of the warp wall to at least limit how much water was hitting it, and they frequently cleaned it between runs, which did allow for it to not knock out as many people, but still caused some really shocking fails, which we'll get to in a little bit. Yeah, definitely. So the weather in combination with the new Prism Seesaw and the DX to a certain degree as well, kind of made stage one here a really weird dynamic in comparison to any other Sasuke tournament we've watched. In addition to any other Sasuke tournament we've covered, to where our rule has always been only people we know and clears. But in this case, we only have 7 clears, and all of them are people deeper into the tournament. So there was very much a more difficult way for us to talk about this. Talk about this. So I kind of just made a executive move to try to look at the results and look at the ones that might be more interesting to cover, to try to represent the kind of daunting view the stage 1 course had over the course of the tournament, to where we went 47 full ones without a clear, and only one of those ones made it to the warp wall. Everyone else fell before the majority of fails being on either on the new Prism Seesaw or even Rolling Hill, but we only had a couple people even make it past that to the new Fishbone, and just me looking at the results here, it's no one in this list, only really one person failed Screwdriver, and that's it. Like, I told you guys, it did no damage. No, not really. But even then, like, dude, there was so many, like, daunting positions on this course. It created a real dread for every runner that we knew going forward. So, if it got past the first 2 obstacles, it was exciting, but then there was the determination of if they got past the DX. And even then, like, we weren't really aware of the modification to the Fishbone while watching, because I feel like unless you did the research, you would not have known. And we decided to keep everything a secret, which kind of hurt us when we got to stage 2, but we'll get there. But either way, it made the DX seem heavily daunting, and then if you got past that, there's still a really difficult combo with the Dragon Glider, Ido Tackle, and Warp Wall. All that is very designed to wear you out. And again, the weather was causing a lot of problems with that too. I don't think if the weather wasn't a problem, it would have been way less daunting, which was actually shown by the World Round, where that was filmed, I think a lot before the actual broadcast. As like a podcast, which meant there wasn't rain on the course, and only a select amount of Japanese people were actually watching these ones, and then they were just intermitted into the rotation once stage 2 started, which we'll get to. It just led to a really weird dynamic when it came down to the original form of the tournament. Yeah, again, there's more things I can talk about when it comes down to the World Round, because I definitely think we'll be spending a lot of time on that. But to try to get through, I had to start with the Japanese stuff. To kind of give a sense of like how this tournament was going, we went 14 ones without someone getting past the new Prism Seesaw and finally making it to Rolling Hill, and then we went 17 total ones till someone finally got past the combo entirely and got all the way to the Fishbone. So, yeah. Now, granted, not all these ones were shown, but none of them were deceased, so that kind of made a big difference when it came down to watching the tournament. Then we have several very early fails all in a row here. The very early broadcast of Sasuke features a lot of Japanese celebrities that we have no idea who they are. In the 30s is when we start getting to the people from the Sasuke trials. These are events that we don't usually cover, but they're separate qualifiers that Japanese ninjas can alternatively go to in order to qualify, in order to get into the Sasuke tournament without having to audition or get recognized by someone else who recommended or whatever the story is. This is a very easy way to get in, where the top 3 get to move into Sasuke, to where the top 2 ended up falling early. However, the first actual person to make it all the way to the Warp Wall was the number 1 qualifier on the Sasuke trials, and we'll get to why in half a second here. But was notable veteran Nakagawa Takaharu. And speaking of which, yes, I am going to ditch a lot of these names. All of us are going to. I wish I said that earlier. So this guy was the number 1 qualifier in the Sasuke 43 trials, and the main reason for that was because he was already a Sasuke veteran, to where he had competed 3 times and made the stage 2 in his last 2 appearances. I'm pretty sure the only reason why he had to compete in the trials this time around was because it had been a while. He had to compete in Sasuke 36. This is his first time competing in quite a while. I'm going to assume that because of that time wait, they didn't accept his original audition, so he went to the trials, and he did really well there. there in heel. It's pretty obvious why he was first place, and he got into Sasuke, and now he is the first athlete to get all the way through to the warp wall, which made him pretty significant, generally speaking. Yeah, but he was really running out of time getting there, so that's kind of what happened. And God, this kind of hit. Well, like at this point, we were kind of ready for a clear. Yeah, definitely. You see, like, so many runs in a row following at the first obstacle. Again, only really a couple really got past as Rolling Hill. The Shin put the seesaw in Rolling Hill. So, us getting all the way to the wall, we were expecting a clear. And though he came kind of close to getting the top of the wall the first time and, had some really good attempts, it just wasn't enough, which is unfortunate. Definitely would have been a good return for this competitor. And, we didn't really know who he was, as you guys can probably tell, but again, the first breakthrough to the wall in this case is notable. Yeah, after that we have a bunch more of kind of support of fails from people we just didn't really recognize falling all over the course, with the exception of two more ninjas, Wei Watanabe, who wasn't even shown in the broadcast, but later was revealed to be the farthest woman of anyone competing, which, how do you even not show that? Yeah, admittedly enough, there was a second airing of Sasuke of every Sasuke tournament called the Pale V, which I'm not really sure what that means, but I'm pretty sure it just means like an extended cut in a way. So in that thing, she was shown apparently, according to Ninja Wiki. But even so, like, that's the farthest woman in the tournament. How do you not show that in such a time? Yeah, they will. I will admit there were very few deceased in this entire tournament in general, so it is notable. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like they could have shown one of the other women in a fast forward or just not shown one of the celebrities or something along those lines, but still. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. After that, kind of crazy. Next one we're going to mention is Hayate Kajihara, who has been pretty consistent over the last couple of years, quitting stage 1 and getting all the way to stage 3 the last couple seasons. He ended up going out on the Dragon Glider, but again, notable for getting that far to begin with. Which leads us to Kaiu Nagano as the first clear of the night. Now, Kaiu Nagano, he's done this a few times. This is his third time clearing stage 1 in his career after, two really good performances in Sasuke 41 and 42. But this one meant so much more because us going this high without a clear, it's been a while. Yeah, in addition to that, it being fucking Kaiu, like, it meant something. We know who Kaiu is. And in addition to that, again, at this point, we were expecting a clear, and we were kind of desperate for it. So, finally seeing it happen, 47 runs and someone we knew could definitely do it, was awesome, but also definitely nerve-wracking. Oh yeah, no doubt. Like, the way I describe this is just like, it's like you got through one part, but then like, what about the next? Like, every single time you got to a new obstacle, there was that constant feel just because, it literally happens to anyone. Yeah, that is a continued feel that would keep on going. The next one after that was Yuta Nakashima, of course, who's Kasumi Yamada's younger protege. I believe he's the youngest Black Tiger competing, him being a senior in high school, only being a year older than Kaiu, probably only by a couple months. More likely, he's age 17, but Kaiu's 16. But either way, Yuta was the second clear of the night. Pretty cool that we got a little bit of momentum with these two, but unfortunately it did not last because the next X40 runs up until number 80 were all fails in various parts of the course. Some of the later ones being some pretty top veterans. Definitely. We have a lot more celebrities and a lot more ninjas that we don't care about. My apologies to anyone who's like fans of these people or what's the story. The only one I want to mention here was Boltman, just because he had heavy potential to clear here, and he was pretty impressive last time, but unfortunately he went out on the Dragon Glider. Yeah, he was number 50, and then for the next 20 numbers, we are looking at people who have fallen in different places throughout the course, or as most of them being before the DX, a couple being on the DX, one of them on the Dragon Glider, and a lot of people from It's in the Dragon Glider, then a lot of cut ones in the early 60s, with the next one particularly notable being Hitoshi Kano. Yeah, so this is all the way at number 70. Very unfortunate that Kano went out this early. Very unfortunate for Kano, who just had a comeback tournament with Sasuke 42 and not shown by the edit at all, only getting fast forwarded twice. So, unfortunate there on its own level, as we mentioned during that podcast. But then there's Huge, where he is shown, thankfully, but he falls on the new Fishbone, which sucks ass. Yeah, again, Kano's definitely getting older, but it would just be amazing for him to finally cross stage 3 again. I don't think he really has much of a shot to ever get back to where he was previously. It sucks seeing someone who I just recently became a fan of, as of my watching of Sasuke, get totally swept by these new obstacles and just have this, having the streak of stage 1 fails. Until Sasuke 42, Kano hadn't been to stage 2 since Sasuke 31. So that's a 11 tournament hiatus, and now to go back into it kind of sucks. I mean, it's a new orientation of an obstacle, so, he's not used to it, so it's understandable in that way, but it really does suck. Oh, hell yeah. Similarly, we have the next number, Shinsuke Nagasaki, who's a little bit younger at age 38, but still been competing just as long as Kano, which at least in time-wise, he did take a long break between Sasuke 19 and 29, at 29, but either way, he's still been there for just as long. I think a little bit longer, too, because I think he started being Sasuke 14. Bakano was a little bit after that, but either way, Shinsuke completely rushed the new Prism Seesaw and fell right there. And kind of got launched towards the edge of the rolling hill and fell there immediately. Yeah, that sucked. This one just, was like, oh my god. It just started! Shinsuke, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, especially since he's been doing well the last couple tournaments, so this absolutely sucked. Oh yeah, no doubt. It was just like Kano. Shinsuke is one of these people who it would just be nice to see him get the stage 3 again. But he's also someone who I think I've stopped caring for personally, just because he hasn't done well since Sasuke 17 really at all. Yeah, you have to realize that he has made it to stage 3 a few more times since then. Aside from Sasuke 18, in his new comeback career, he's made it to stage 3 2 more times, Sasuke 30 and 34. But both times he went on the cliffhanger, and he doesn't... in obstacle, he's only technically cleared once in Sasuke 17, so he doesn't even have a track record alone, but it just kind of comes down to the fact that we don't really think he has the skill to be on the cliffhanger at this point. So while for Kano, it would kind of mean a lot for him to get there to begin with, for Shinsuke, it would mean a lot less, but it would still be cool to see, especially after so many bad tournaments where he went out at stage 2 and now stage 1. So, yeah, that's the situation with these two. Yeah, it really does suck, honestly. Yeah, after that, we come to the people of the Morimoto Sedai, which basically just means Morimoto's dynasty. And these are people who have been doing really well as of recently, where they're kind of seen as the younger generation coming out, and they're all in their 30s, around that area. So, all of these were pretty shocking. But right before all of them, we have Yusuke Sasuke, also known as the modern Sasuke Sensei. Now, this is someone who I know we mentioned during Sasuke 42, and this was a pretty notable event for the people who knew who he was. Us not really being one of them, but regardless, I wanted to mention this. So, this was his retirement tournament, and he had become kind of a minor star over the years, with him adopting the Sasuke Sensei name, which had been carried by 2 other ninjas in Sasuke's history. Yuzuke it's 47, so kind of makes sense, but kind of not. I feel like I feel like you'd go a lot older before you fucking retire, but we'll fucking get there in terms of the other retirement. Yeah, it's just get there. Yeah, but yeah. So it kind of made the one kind of sad for everyone who was watching, especially since he had plans to maybe go back to stage 3, which he hadn't been since Sasuke 40. But unfortunately, he did not get back there. Heck, though, he timed out the warp wall, though he came fairly close. was where he didn't really have much time getting to it. Only really have time for maybe one good attempt, and he wasn't able to. So, kind of unfortunate way to end his entire career. Now this is also something that I wasn't aware of while watching the tournament for the first time, so I honestly didn't care at the time. Yeah, it's a little weird. I mean, it hurt a lot more when it comes down to, a little bit later when we talk about ABCZ guy, but yeah. Okay, so after that we have Araki Naoki, who is the first member of the Morimoto Society, which we just mentioned. He had a shocking fail going out on Rolling Hill, where he made the jump from the Prison Seesaw to it, but then got a little bit reactive as he started to sprint up the hill, which made the other spinners spin, so he fell off, so yeah, that kind of sucked because he did really well last time and has gone to stage the last couple tournaments too, so it kind of seems like he might have been a contender too, but I'm not really too sure how much of a contender he actually is. Either way, after that, we had probably the most shocking fail of stage 1, at least in my opinion. We had Sato Jun, to where this was a really eventful one, to where the majority of this one, he was really making this course look really easy, where he got through the seesaw in like 10 seconds, immediately popping to the middle, and then immediately jumping to the end. Like, he made it look super easy. I don't think anyone else made it that easy. Then he had basically no trouble with all the rest of the course, up until the warp wall, where he got there with about 30 seconds left. Pretty typical for Sato. He's usually getting the fastest time of the night. But then he has several failed attempts on the wall to where he touches the top but just can't pull himself up. And then, unfortunately, time runs out. But once the timer runs out, he does one more attempt and makes it up anyway, which really hits. Yeah, especially considering how Sato was, was not shown during last year, even if it wasn't really disappointing year for him, just in general, the fact that he wasn't shown that year. God, that sucks! Yeah, again, the circumstances of the fact that we hadn't seen a clear sense Caillou, we hadn't seen a clear sense Nakashima and Caillou. In addition to that, big name veteran here, who we expect to go all the way to stage 3, goes out on stage 1 for something that hasn't happened in, I think, over a decade in his career. Yeah, he hasn't gone out on stage 1 since his very first appearance, I think in Sasuke 21, which a long time ago. So yeah, very unfortunate. After that, we have Ryo Mitachi, who we've mentioned on the channel as being fairly inconsistent. He has no consistent to where he is capable of some really amazing things, we know it, and he has some really impressive performances on Sasuke 30 and 36, but aside from that, he's had some very surprising fails in stages 1 and 2. He had another one going out on the Dragon Glider. Now, partly I do think it was because the ball was wet, due to the rain, but either way, this still was kind of a shock. Yeah, a little bit. Like, it felt like typical for Ryo at this point, but it still really did suck. Yeah. After that, we had Tomohiro Muto, who was fast-forwarded. Another one of the top veterans. I think he's also part of the Morimoto Society as well. But do not quote me on that. But either way, he did fairly well, timing on the warp wall as well. So, fairly unfortunate since he's been to stage 2 a few times. I think he's also been to stage 3 once as well. So, kind of unfortunate. And then we had Tasahiro Tada, who honestly had a lot writing on his one, just again because of everything before it, which really did suck because I don't know what the fuck he was doing, but he really did stall on this one. Yeah, so first off, so he did, similar to Sato, he did have a really good pace on his one, but once he got to the wall, he was really like prepping himself up and like getting himself ready for attempting the wall, to where he took, I think he had like 30 seconds coming to it, so he took that entire 30 seconds to rest and get his legs ready for the one-up, so he was really banking on that one attempt he was going to get. And I guess if that's strategy, it's a strategy, and we'll actually be talking about it a little bit later with Kawaguchi, but it just makes him look kind of stupid because he fails this one attempt and is times out right there, which also kind of sucks because I think this is his first time failing on stage 1 in quite a while. I honestly was putting him at the forefront as one of the people I was expecting to clear the vertical limit burst this year, so yeah, that sucked. Yeah, definitely. After that, after all this tragedy and dread, we come to Yamamoto Kaitaro. I did not think he'd be on next Cleo, honestly. Yeah, it kind of just comes down to circumstance. Well, like, he's not as well, yes, he has been somewhat consistent with calling the first stage. In this circumstance, consistency just simply doesn't matter. To where, like, you know, we have people who have done it tons of times, falling early, and these are top veterans, so Kaitaro is not in any better a position. But despite that, he was the next Cleo, which meant a lot with him being, you know, as we mentioned earlier, the last Cleo was Utah at number 48, and now we are here at number 80. That's a lot of ones. That's a full hour and a half of one time since Utah's Cleo, so yeah, it definitely does make a difference there. Yeah, definitely. After that, with number 81, one that honestly I don't really feel like talking about, but I feel like we kind of have to. Yeah, so this is Takas, if I am saying this name right, Sukata Ryochi, who is one of the more well-known celebrity ninjas on Sasuke. He's also known as the ABCZ guy, because I think that's a TV program he's on, or a band, it's one of the two. Do not quote me on it, I don't know much about this guy. But this was apparently a really meaningful tournament for him, because this was also his final tournament as well. So, yeah, a little surprising, because he's only 39, so I think it just kind of comes down to his schedule. He doesn't want to commit to it because he has other obligations, I understand. But a little surprising, he goes on the Warp Wall, which is a pretty unfortunate end to his career. Now, so again, I don't know Japanese, but I went into this one not even being aware that this was his final tournament. So when he timed out, everyone on the sidelines was crying and they were playing sad music and everything. I'm just like, okay, why the fuck are we making such a big deal out of this? So I stopped mid-tournament to look it up, and that's how I found out. I'm just like, huh? I don't even know who this fucking guy is, and all of a sudden we're making a big deal about it? Like just like with, if I knew about Yuzuke retiring as well and realized what they were doing with him in the broadcast too, I think I would have had the same questions. We just have two people who, you know, throughout their results really have been built up to us as notable people to watch out for, and they're all of a sudden given big deals in the edit. It's a really weird situation. That's why it's like kind of hard for us to have actual opinions, because it's just flat out weird. Yeah, that's why I was saying, like, I don't really want to talk about it at the same time, but I feel like we kind of have to, because there may not be much to say, but it happened. And I feel like for a lot of people watching the tournament, it might have meant something to them, so yeah, it kind of depends on the point of view, though. Yeah, after that, we have Hiyoki Masashi, who is running surprisingly high on this one. 82 is by far way too high for him. He hasn't been doing well enough to receive something that high. I know he's had several Stage 3 appearances in the past, but he hasn't went beyond the cliff angle ever. And, you know, he's been really consistently falling there. So honestly not really someone I think deserves to be this high, but I guess good for him because he has been competing for quite a while. Either way, he also timed out the Warp Wall, falling on stage 1 for the first time since Sasuke 32 for him, so that is kind of unfortunate in a way. I know, unfortunate, but not really notable in my opinion. After that, we have Oshima Ayano, who has had some things to pop up recently, notably getting a Kandaseiha in Kunoichi 12, which is a little bit low over an award, but in Japan that obviously means a lot because Kunoichi's a pretty big show over there. Kunoichi's in a very interesting situation to where it had gone away for a couple of years and just recently came back in 2025. It's in 2024. So, yeah, so this was a big thing to pop up. As we've mentioned previously on the channel, she's also the woman who, in Japan, who probably has the most skill and, you know, obviously likely to clear stage 1 at this point. So her going out on the DX really sucked, but honestly, it just looked like she didn't really know how to do the obstacle. Yeah, she just mistimed it on the plus sign, which makes sense, you know. Not everyone's gonna know how to do it, but kind of sucks that someone like that was knocked out at it. Yeah, I think it's also a situation where I don't know if she would have quoted, like, she had very little time getting there to begin with, so probably would not have happened. Yeah, it really depends on how you look at it. After that, we have a couple Olympians in number 86 and 87, and then we have number 88, Iwamoto Hikaru, also known as Snowman, who, again, we've mentioned is one of the more well-known Sasuke It's one of the more well-known celebrity competitors than Sasuke. He's actually done more things than the ABC guy, so he's a little more notable to us. He did not win here, despite getting shown all throughout the broadcast and everything. Last second in the broadcast, literally, he withdraws and makes a small speech that is obviously in Japanese, so we don't know what it said. But essentially, what I got was, I think the weather conditions were making him a little bit sick. In addition to that, it was making the course more difficult, so I think he just decided to retire based off that one. So yeah, that kind of sucked. And then after that, we had the man, the myth, the legend. We all been waiting for him. Miyoko Uesugi. Suit guy. He's back. I am relieved. Yeah, this was definitely a big one. Because knowing all the conflict beforehand, Uesugi was another one we were definitely worried for. And there was definitely a lot of nerve-wrackingness while watching this one. A lot of it I definitely don't think can really be replicated ever again because we just know now that he cleared. But like, I don't think there's a better way to describe just the existential dread that was while watching this one, being like, honestly, I could see him failing anything here. So thankfully he was able to make it through and hit the buzzer with 5 seconds left, so pretty good one. After that, we have a couple more Olympians that no one gives a shit about. We have one more Olympian who no one gives a shit about. Two more competitive champions and different things that we're not really going to bring up. Leading up to the one of Bumpei Shiratori. Honestly, a genuine shock to see him back here again, but as a result of that, I don't really think it is all that special that he's here. Like, in retrospect, yeah, but like, this one wasn't notable. Last year kind of felt like it meant something that he was back here, not so much. It's a really weird situation. If he does become a all-star regular, though, that's pretty cool. That means that, 4 out of the 6 All-Stars are competing on the regular today. That's really neat. Really neat, but it's really weird. Yeah, definitely. I'm here to going on Rolling Hill. That we're going out on Rolling Hill where we kind of just rushed the seesaw and kind of went flying into the Rolling Hill similar to Shinsuke. Kind of unfortunate. Would love to see him get revenge, I guess, if he does end up coming back next season, but I don't really think there's much to say on Bumpei, which sucks because he's probably one of my favorites when it comes down to the earlier Sasuke days. Yeah, we mentioned it last time, how, Bumpei has really come over the top in terms of people who, if we were fans back then, I think we would have been on the edge of our seats to see him complete the course because, he's had 2 near-final stage attempts, Sasuke 13, 14 is to his actual final stage attempt doing Sasuke 12. So, yeah, he is a big guy. It just doesn't really feel like it matters all that much anymore, but it's a really weird position. After that, we had Shingo Yamamoto, of course, the only competitor to compete in every Sasuke tournament. I do think it is notable to mention that he has been having aspirations of getting back to the 3rd stage, which could happen, I guess. But if it does, it'd be neat. It's a similar situation to where it would be neat in terms of how, it's being neat to see Kano and Shinsuke attempt a modern stage 3. I think it would mean a little less for Shingo's sake, just because we all know he's past his prime. But, his quit on stage 1 meant something back then, especially with it being an anniversary tournament. But I do think him quitting on stage 2, if that ever comes to pass, would mean a lot. He would be the oldest athlete ever to do it, with Yuji, I think, holding the record as of now. So, yeah, it would be very impressive. Yeah, definitely. So it's kind of the type of thing to where it barely matters. We haven't even mentioned the fact that he went on the Dragon Guido again this season. Yeah, was a thing. I don't think it really matters, but yeah. I feel like it's the type of thing to where we've talked about the All-Stars so much, but we can't really expect much from them, but the fact that they're doing how well they are and at the age they are is pretty impressive. Oh, yeah. After that, we have Kasumi Yamada. He's 60. Is that all you got? That's all I got. Yeah, I think he's one of the oldest ninjas still competing nowadays at this point. I mean, I get why he still competes in a way, but he's not even like Ryan Arnold, to where at least he at least recognized that, hey, I'm just doing this for fun at this point. It really does suck because, Yamana has so much edge to his performances. It is neat that he's, training a whole bunch of proteges under the Black Tigers. I've always thought that was neat in itself. And I do feel like he's still, and I understand why he still goes there, obviously. He's still coach. I think it would mean a lot for him if Yoshiyuki or even Utah wins. And it's because that would mean that, his protege ended up winning Sasuke, so at least he was able to train someone who had the capability of winning. But it doesn't really matter for him solely. It's a really weird situation. I feel like my opinion on Kasumi Yamano really doesn't matter because I just don't really have much respect for the guy. So it's just really weird to keep on saying the same thing over and over again. It kind of makes us seem really weird if I'm being honest. Yeah, a little bit. After that, we've honestly a one that is weird to talk about in its own way, but it is cool. We have Tomohiro Kawaguchi. Honestly, a competitor who I don't think should have 96 at this point. I honestly think 96 should have went to Ryosuke and they should have swapped positions. Because Kawaguchi has not been very consistent recently. Well, aside from the last two tournaments where he cleared, he has in a downward spiral and hasn't really gone back to his status since Sasuke 36. So it's been a really weird position. At this point, he's kind of past his prime as well, where he is 44 years old, so that's kind of at the edge to where you would consider the durability of Ninja in general. And also, I really don't think he has a shot to ever make it past the quarterfinal, even if he gets there to begin with. I feel like at this point, I personally stopped going for Kawaguchi, to where I just don't think he's really ever going to do anything big on the show again. I might be wrong, but I'd love to be proven wrong. But at this point, I feel like he never really had a shot past Sasuke 35, maybe. Honestly, yeah. Yeah, it's just more time kind of just passes and it really just stops mattering. That does go to undercut this one, which was pretty good, to where he made through the entire course, and while yes, I do think the warp wall was a little scary, he kind of just winged it at that point, and barely cleared. He still did clear with 2 seconds left, so good on him. Honestly, a big shock that he still could. Yeah, I definitely still think that Ryosuke should have won in his spot, though. I know we just said it, but, Ryosuke, he did so well last tournament, and Kawaguchi did not. Kawaguchi only really did well in reference to the rest of his career before this. But in this case, I really wish that Kawaguchi was taken off this high pedestal, and just moved down to 89 or give him one of the Olympian slots, because honestly we did not care for 91, care for 90 through 92. So give him one of those slots if you don't care. Yeah, it's just the shuffling would have been nice just to really make it a little less weird. After that we have Yamamoto Yoshiyuki, who had the fastest clear time of any of the Japanese ninjas in this tournament. I don't think the one was really that notable aside from that, but it was a good one. Yeah. I think Yoshiyuki is one of those competitors who just becomes less and less notable over the years unless he gets to the final stage. Oh yeah, definitely. Unless he has a super crazy final result, it's not really going to matter the rest of his season. So yeah, that's that. After that we have Makoto Nagano, who has kind of a very unnotable one going on the Dragon Glider, but neat. But, it's cool that he's still competing with his son and whatnot. I think one thing I'd love to see from Nagano is one more Stage 1 clear. I don't know if he really has it in him, but it would be awesome in the case. Not only would he, trump the oldest Stage 1 clear rate, which is currently held by Shingo right now, it would also mean a lot if Caillou also clears that tournament as well, meaning that, Caillou and Nagano advance to Stage 2 together as father and son. It's never happened in AEW. It would mean a lot to happen here, I think. Oh yeah, such as Nago hasn't cleared since Sasuke 30, and he did almost clear during Sasuke, 32 and 40, so he's had some pretty close attempts since his, pretty close attempts since his last clear as well. So honestly, it's the type of thing that I'd love to see just like you, honestly. Yeah, definitely for sure. So I think I'll stay on Nagano. After that, we have, honestly, one of the more shocking fails of the tournament. Honestly, a really big shock. We have Yuji Ushihara, who is getting on the older side, but has still been doing super well recently, getting to the third stage a lot lately. But he unfortunately fell in the fishbone. That happened. Yeah, this kind of sucked. This was kind of a big shock. I honestly thought Yuji was one of the easy lock-ins in terms of a clear. And you could definitely tell he was upset after the fair, too. Yeah, that leads us to Yuske Morimoto. Oh god, this one had a lot leading on it. Yeah, Yusuke is someone. Yusuke is someone who, I've had very mixed feelings about recently too. Where, I care about him in the sense of like he's the top ninja in Japan right now. He has some incredible grip strength and overall, his domination over the last 10 years or so has really made him a big star in the show. Obviously, double Kondenseiha in Sasuke 31 and 38, as well as more attempts at the final stage than any other athlete, where he had previously tied Nagano, and now he has surpassed Nagano with this tournament, which is a little bit of a spoiler, but we'll get there eventually. But yeah, it's just cool to see. But yeah, so it makes Morimoto significant, but it also kind of makes it barely matter to where, at this point, Morimoto proving himself becomes less and less important, less and less impressive, because we already know he can do it. But I'll be honest here, I was, similar to a lot of these other ones, I was kind of at the edge of my seat because of everything beforehand, like we keep on saying here. Yeah, it's the same feeling over and over again. I think I meant more for Yusuke, just for the simple fact that he had fallen on the warp wall twice due to weather conditions, so this time around, it really meant something that he was able to do it. Yeah, it did. Yeah, I will say that definitely made the one mean a little more that he was able to clear with 7 seconds left. So that is cool in its own sense. And that ended day 1 of Sasuke 43, to where the rest of the podcast was on day 2. And and before we move on, do you guys have any final things to say on the Japanese side? I feel like we'd be repeating a lot of the same things, but this is just a really hard broadcast to watch, if I'm being honest. Like, a really weird position. Oh yeah, definitely. The first half of the broadcast, we really didn't give a shit, but they were, kind of surprising how long we went without clears between, Caillou and then, Yamamoto Kaitoa. Just the fact that those were such long gaps, and the second gap was even harder because we had so many vets during that gap in the 70s, like, goddamn. Yeah, one thing I do want to say is that I feel like a lot of those vets that are in the 70s really should be moved up at this point. If Hioki got number 82, then honestly a lot of those people should be given the 80s numbers because of how well they've been doing. And how much of a chance I think a lot of them actually do have to possibly win and make the final stage. Final stage sometime. Especially since Tada in particular has done it twice, I think all of them really do deserve to be in those 80s and be swapped out with other celebrities that are in the 80s. This one was really weird with that too. Well, we had several celebrities and other sports people who were in the 80s and who were in the late 70s and 80s and stuff. Just places that I feel like those people should have went. Yeah, they really should be saving their heavy hitters for later in the broadcasts. Yeah, I feel like the main reason why they don't do that is mainly just because of how big these celebrities are in Japan and how that's kind of a drive to watch Sasuke in Japan as it airs regularly, but I also feel like that's not a reason. It's really weird gray area for sure. Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think with that we can move on to the World Round. Or the international representation. Up to this point, it was a really weird situation to where we weren't aware of the world round, so we were questioning, where's Daniel Gill? Where's Olivia Vivian? Where's all the people who we were, expecting to come back? The main reason was because they were here. Something that I wasn't aware of as of watching. You mentioned you weren't aware of as of watching either. Yeah, no. I was honestly like, did they not invite back Gil? What the fuck happened here? No, I like the World Round first. I think I need to state that even though we're mentioning this stuff, the World Round's awesome. Like, the fact that they were given so many more spots to these international ninjas means a lot. Like, and some of the deep cut picks they went for here, like I said before, it means a lot. There's a lot of deep cut people who we never thought would compete on Sasuke, or even just compete ever again in general. Like, yeah. There were so many people here who we just thought we'd never get to see compete in a Ninja Warrior thing ever again. Yeah. We'll be talking about them individually, but But like we mentioned, but yeah, this also opens up the door for so much more in the future. So it means a lot that this ended up happening to begin with. Yeah, so let's start talking about the World Round. And I think the first thing we have to mention about the World Round, before we even get into like runs or Pacifics, is just the fact that this was filmed on a different night, meaning the weather conditions weren't a problem. Yeah, so first off, the World Round was filmed way before the actual tournament itself. And you could kind of tell because a lot of the core athletes are simply on here, and it's only the veterans and the all-stars watching the international run, so that definitely made a difference. Yeah, there was no weight on the course, which definitely made a difference when, like, well, you just said that, fuck. Yeah, but you got a point. Like, everyone was affected by the weight on the course, and it definitely caused a low amount of clears on the Japanese side. But here, because the Americans didn't have to deal with that, it just came down to the hardness of a course, and the fact that a lot of these Americans have never been here before, and a lot of these why am I saying only Americans? Dude, there's like plenty of people from other countries, yeah? Like, seriously, we're gonna be talking about a lot of them, because a lot of them did pretty well. Or, like, their deep cut picks or whatever. Yeah, okay, but like, this added a bunch of, a couple of clears to the charts, as well as these people just in general had less problems because there was no weather problems. There was no weather to where they were only exposed to that once they were thrown in with the other Japanese people, and by then, it had already done its damage. Yeah, and then it's just like the equivalent of like how it waned last year on stage 2. Like, it just didn't matter at that point. Yeah, no. But going into it, the obstacles were exactly the same as in the actual tournament. The time limit was the same. It just came down to the different competitors. There was some really deep cut pits in here, as we mentioned earlier. We'll get to them individually one by one. We're not going to mention everyone here. There's a lot of ones that I just don't think we really need to bring up. Yep, so we're mostly going to focus on people that we know and the most significant ones, depending on achievements and whatnot. A lot of these people are just, like, top competitors in their respective regions. We don't watch Foreign Ninja Warriors, so our familiarity with these people is fairly limited, so we apologize for that fully. The first one to won was Joel Matey, who went to achieve Seiha back in Enjoy Australia, Austria 3, apparently. He went on the DX. Then we had Danae, if I'm going to say this one right, Marmaliho, how do you say that? He actually competed on USA versus the World on Team Latin America, so weird. Yeah, he hasn't competed in anything ninja related since, and it shows he fell in Rolling Hill. Yeah, then we got Donovan Matoyo, which was pretty cool, but unfortunately it didn't last long, because while yes, he did get a really cool wheel and stuff, he got disqualified on the seesaw to where he made the jump to the Rolling Hill, but he actually touched the support thing at the bottom of the Rolling Hill instead of actually the Rolling Hill, which DQ'd him. That blew. Yeah, I mean, if I didn't even remember that even happened, I remember him going out on like the DX or something, but it still really sucked. Yeah, so Matoyo is actually someone who's been to Sasuke before, to where he was not only on the sidelines for Daniel Gill in Sasuke 41. There was also he also competed in the Sasuke 42 trials, to try to get into it last year, which is pretty cool if you ask me. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that year, but happened that year. We would love to have seen him do a Sasuke 42 if he actually qualified. I don't know how he didn't. But yeah, so seeing him here is neat, but it's just fairly unfortunate that he fell, that he got DQ'd on the first obstacle. Yeah, after that we had Yuzo Uzulakman Zalako, who was the last ninja standing in Ninja Warrior Indonesia. Ninja 2, as well as also competing on USA vs. the World during AW9 where they had Team Asia, so that's another deep cut, but he went on Rolling Hill, so it really didn't matter. Yeah, after that we have the first clear of the night come from Tim Champion, who is the only person to achieve Seiha in Ninja Warrior UK doing it in 2019, so that is pretty neat. He had a pretty good one where it was pretty fast, and he had honestly, I still think he was having fun. He's probably one of my favorite people from this tournament in general, just because you can tell he was very honored to be there. Like, I never heard of this guy, and I mistook him for someone else. and I mistook him for Mungus Mitbo, who was also in the international specials. But yeah, so Tim Champion, he cleared with 30 seconds left, which was the new fastest clear of the tournament. Technically speaking, I wouldn't really call it the fastest clear because he doesn't have to deal with the whole weather thing, but still pretty impressive. I'm glad to see he made it through. After that, we have a couple more competitors to where I don't really think they're all that notable. The only one I'm really going to break up is Eric Lopez, who was the last ninja standing during the second season of Ninja Warrior Spain, and he got all the way to the warp wall. And a pretty eventful one where he almost got tripped up on both the fishbone and the DX, but he was able to save both times. But he was just exhausted throughout the course and lost his time on the warp wall, so a little unfortunate there. After that, we had one of the biggest surprises of the tournament, at least when it comes down to a pick, Addie Herman. Yeah, we mentioned this earlier, but Herman was on Sasuke! Like, what the fuck? How the frick did they invite someone like her here? I will never know. Yeah, they gotta have some kind of spokesman, like, edging out these people. I don't know, like, and I don't know, it's like, you know, she's big in America, obviously. Like, I'm not gonna discredit that. But I'm just like, I'm just surprised one of the teen stars got on the Sasuke. Like, honestly, I saw her in the wheel, and I'm just like, wait, is Addie Herman here? Oh my god, holy shit! And the cool thing about this, too, was that, now that we were starting to get into the people we recognize, we didn't know who was competing, but we just started recognizing all these people, and me being a ninja nerd really came in clutch here because we were recognizing people from here onwards. I'm pretty sure a lot of the people in this grouping after Addie Herman, we kind of just knew from like the international specials or the World Cup or just in general. Like, these were recognizable people, and seeing people like Herman on Sasuke kind of really does feel like a dream come true. Yeah, and it's like a dream that, like, you never even realized we had. Not really, no. Like, I never really had the idea that Herman could be on Sasuke. And, as he mentioned back in the preliminary discussion, this opens the door for so much. This opens the door for, like, people like Taylor Green and Josiah Papel and just the top teens to come on the Sasuke. Or even just the top veterans like Caleb Bergstrom and like we said before, people like David Campbell and James McGrath and Football Rodriguez. Like, get those people who have been on Sasuke before back down here, man. Like, I know we're just talking about Americans, and we need international representation all around, but take out these people who aren't in Ninja anymore and just competed once or twice or whatever, and put in people who we know will do well. I'd love to see Campbell back in Sasuke. I'd love to see James McGrath back in Sasuke. Like, you know, and plus, like, seeing the teenagers from AEW on Sasuke, that would be like, think about how a lot of them would react to that. That'd be like a dream come true for them. Yeah, like this I think having Herman here, regardless of how she's done, totally just flips the narrative. Like, this, again, it extends the possibilities of who could possibly be here on Sasuke. We're literally both like fangirling out here. I know! And I'm not even interacting. But I am excited about this too. Yeah, no doubt. So, Addie Herman, you know, very significant that she was here to begin with. Very unfortunate that she only got as far as the DX to where, she had a save on the fishbone, but she wasn't able to get the time away in the DX, where she was very hesitant, and even when she went for it, she missed the top point, meaning that she just got rotated off, which really did suck. I would have loved to have seen her on stage 2 and stuff. I don't really expect her to be able to come here again, just due to that performance, because, like, but you know, I would still love to see it again. You know, I have no doubt she'd improve. Like, I feel like this type of thing would boost the training of so many of these athletes who are still competing. So, like, for both Matoyo and Herman, this is, you know, something that I don't know how much Herman wanted to compete in Sasuke. I don't even know who approached her with this, but like, you know, getting this shot would totally inspire me to train more. Like, I want to do well on the show that started it all. Heck, Nat Toriyama doesn't even exist in most of these countries anymore. I think the only exception is Germany. Like, seriously, these people are getting the opportunity of a lifetime. Like, Sasuke really does feel like the opportunity of a lifetime again. Yeah, that is a good point. Like, I think about the people from Ninja Australia, too. You know, their show got canceled a while back as well. And then Tim Champion, Ninja UK, from what I know, Ninja Warrior UK5, where he won, was the finale of the original format over there. Well, Season 6 was more like Season 17 of AEW, to where it was more, where it was just wasting till the end, so it really didn't matter at that point. So, yes, like, bring back these people. Like, that's how hype someone like Addie Herman being here just means. It doesn't matter how she does, like, we could see Table Green, we could see all these people back in Sasuke, just because we know they're looking out for random deep cut picks like this. Yeah, definitely. After that, we had Ben Paulson, who has competed in a few of the international specials as well as the World Cup. He also achieved he's also achieved Condensate Han, Australian Ninja Warrior 4, so he does have some experience. So we kind of did know him going into this. He unfortunately went on the Dragon Glider. Fairly unfortunate. After that, we had another very deep cut pick. Someone I never thought we'd see again in Ninja Warrior, just because I kind of got the idea that he was done with Ninja as a sport. But we saw fucking Josh Levin in Sasuke, people. Yeah, like we said with Herman, like, this was even more of a deep cut because Levin announced his retirement from Ninja Warrior back after Season 14. So it is a ginormous shock to see him here. But I think it just proves that the only reason why he's done with AEW is because he doesn't feel like he can do much more with it. And I kind of get that to a certain extent. Like, it's so much of a different competition now, and even after AEW 14, like, what more can you do after getting to Stage 4 once? Like, for someone like Levin, he has so many more commitments, I kind of understand. He and Sasuke, it's really sounded like he was so happy to be there. And from what we heard from him in the interviews and stuff on the podcast, okay, he was, so excited to be there because, like, he got to meet, like, Nagano and stuff, and, like, this meant so much to someone like him. Yeah, and plus, like, we know Levin so well, like, we were, I always was a big fan of him from, AEW 8 onwards. Like, he was someone who we always thought could win AEW, and he got such a good cut during AEW 14 as well, despite how weird that season was. And he got a really good cut here to where, in addition to having a very good one, which we'll get into as we keep on going here, still amazing to see him here. He ended up clearing the course with 9 seconds left. Took us forever to mention that part, but yeah, definitely really cool to see Levin here, not expected in the slightest. After that, we had Daniel Mason, who's another veteran from Ninja Australia, who went out on the Fishbone. Then we're gonna skip number 13, going to number 14, Benjamin Grams, who isn't immediately recognizable just based off the name, but he was in the World Cup. There's also just his run in general. Yeah, so in addition to fucking making the Prism Seesaw look like Child's Play by literally 2-footing it and then hopping off, like, not even like what Shadow Dune did, literally just like 2 feet off, like, not even trying. But then he just went through the course, honestly, no problems. Fastest quarter of the tournament, technically, like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, him and later on Ashton Herbert just completely blazed through this course. Kind of crazy. After that, we had a few more kind of surprising fails and a couple more deep cuts as well. First off, we had Olivia Vivian, who did really well last year, but unfortunately he was knocked out by the first obstacle, which really fucking sucked. Like, I desperately wanted to see her back on stage 2. Yeah, she needs to avenge for the Lowing Log. Like, god damn, it sucks. I kind of want to see more women on the Cliffhanger, I don't know. Oh yeah, so we didn't get any of that this year, definitely. So, yeah, I kind of blew. After that, we have one more competitor, Han Tatatawa Wizik, however you say that last name. I don't even know if I said the first name right, but anyway, he is only really notable that he did achieve Kanseha in Enjoy Poland Season 9, so yeah, he was pretty significant in that way, but he went on the first obstacle, so I don't really know if it was well mentionable, but I felt like bringing it up anyway just because of the achievement. After that, we had probably the deepest cut here, I would argue. Fucking Sean McCall, who hasn't been this end to an Ninja Warrior competition since USA vs. the World, and has just been in climbing, like, oh my god, Jesus. Yeah, no doubt, like, this is kind of crazy, seeing Sean McCall in an Ninja Warrior competition again. Now, granted, he didn't do well, he went on the DX, but still, like, again, deep cut pick here. Yeah, I don't really think there's much more to say about the one, but very cool to see Sean McCall again. If he did well, I think there would have been more, but yeah, even with that, this is still pretty cool. highlight of his career. After that, we had Ashton Herbert, who I honestly say that I think this tournament definitely made me a fan of him. Oh yeah, no, I'm fucking in love with this man. I fucking love him. He's so cool. Oh, cool. Like I personally love his style a lot. He's super fast and fun. And I love his personality. Like, like this man is one of my favorite ninjas now. Honestly. Wow, really? That's what this tournament did. Kinda. I think it was more the World Cup that made me a fan of Ashwin, but like this tournament really made me recognize him as like, you know, his own person and stuff, and I'll actually definitely remember him after this tournament. Like, god damn. What an impression he made this time around, so that was cool. After that, we had two big shocks before we got to Gil, where we had Ilion Chiref, who was on 2K last year and did pretty well, getting all the way to stage 3 in the vertical limit for this international competitor since Drew, so that's really good. But unfortunately, this year he went out in the transition to the Rolling Hill, where he did land it, but the thing ended up slipping on him and he went out there. That royally sucked. Yeah, I totally would have expected him to get back to stage 3 and always the cliffhanger. Like, that kind of blew, honestly. Yeah, definitely for sure. After that, we had Jesse Graff. I think this one, out of all of them, is definitely showing that Graff is losing her touch as she's aging, which really does suck, Yeah, you know, Graff I never really saw as old, but these last couple seasons definitely told me that. So definitely told me that, kinda. So, she had a pretty decent one throughout and got to the warp wall with 20 seconds left, so it looked like she was doing well, but then she just couldn't get off the wall for some reason. What the hell? Yeah, I think it really comes to the fact that her legs aren't as explosive as before, but this really blew. Yeah, after, 3 straight years of getting to stage 2, H2, and just being the first time she had she had failed stage 1 is pretty surprising and pretty unfortunate. Graff really needs to come back at this point, but I don't really know if... I don't know. I feel like, I'm getting really mixed thoughts about how much her age is actually affecting her, and I feel kind of rude saying that that's the reason why she fell, but it really does feel like that, because she is the oldest ninja here out of this entire grouping. Really? Yeah, she's the only one who's even 40. Like, everyone here is, I think Donovan Montoya is the second oldest here at 38. There's... Most of these people aren't that old. Like, it's kind of insane that Graff is the oldest here. Yeah, it kind of sucks. Kind of sucks, really, when you really think about it. After that, we got Daniel Gill, who honestly has been on a hot streak since Sasuke 41 and just in general, all over the world. It's all over the world. So, obviously, he's going to come here and do well, and he did, with 33 seconds left, so that's really good for him. Yeah, I personally have become really fond of Gil recently. Like, I will personally argue he's my favorite ninja of all time. Like, straight up, so would Ashlyn from the season. I loved seeing him compete. I had heavy hopes for him this year, which made what ended up happening a little later really fucking suck, but... Like, from here on out, I really was cheering for both Daniel and Ashlyn the most. Like, even more than the Japanese ninjas that were still in the competition. Like, I was really cheering for both of them at this point. Oh, yeah, again, like, there was so much writing on Gil just getting past the cliffhanger here, so it really hit what didn't happen this time, but whatever, we'll get there. But yeah, he quit stage 1 really good, which led to a total of 13 people going into stage 2 from the Japanese and then the Americans, to where we had 7 and 5, that's 12. Wow, I can't do math. Yeah, clearly. Yeah, but still really cool. I like how the world round added a couple more people to stage 2. Well, it kind of just improved the roster we were getting to see on the course. Yeah, it made stage 2 seem like it would be pretty exciting, and and it made stage 1 have a really good finish. To where, I'll be honest here, I think this is the best stage 1 we've seen in a Sasuke tournament in a while. Like, even with all the shocking fails, that made the stage 1 super dreadful and super memorable. Like, honestly, I feel like this stage 1 would be one of the most memorable tournaments to me, personally. Oh yeah, like, I would say stage 1 is probably the best part of this tournament. Like, stage 3 and 4, like, stage 3 was really interesting to watch too, but I feel like nothing really matches the excess of dread that I'm assuming all three of us, it sounds like we all felt the same thing. All three of us felt the same extra dread whenever anybody we knew ran this course. Like, even in the World Round, there was still, like, the ambiguity of, like, what if, ambiguity, and there's still, like, a lot of shock. Like, there was still people like Leon Chilef and Jesse Graff who we thought would just move on, and just a lot of surprisingly shocking fails that honestly has made, like, the entirety of Stage 1 just very exciting, and similar in the World Round 2, again, a lot of the deep cut picks help with that too. Yeah, definitely for sure. So I guess with that, we can move on to Stage 2, and oh boy. Are you guys ready for us to complain for the next 15 or so minutes? Is that all we're gonna do because the Stage 2 course is no different from last time and we were expecting something different like foolish assholes? Yeah! God, I feel stupid for having high hopes about this. I mean, not ignoring the fact that only 2 people failed this course out of the entirety of the 12 who made it here. Yeah, it's not helping this cause either, huh? Yeah, so Stage 2 received no changes from last time, and so it means that all our problems from the previous, 3 to 4 Stage 2s we've gotten since Sasuke 39 has just been... Ugh. Yeah, so we've received no changes to this course since the rolling log was introduced in Sasuke 38. Not counting 37 because it wasn't used in the weather. So, yeah, this course was useless. This was probably the worst part of the podcast by far. I really didn't think I cared for anyone to move on. I want all these people in Stage 3, but it really didn't matter to me that they had to get through this first. Yeah. I feel like minus Caillou's one, which we'll get to in half a second here, I don't think I can really say I care for any of these ones. Like, nothing happened in the entirety of these runs in general. Yeah, I think it's probably best if we just run through this. So first up, we got Caillou. This is notable as first one of the night, first clear of the night with 1 second left. I will admit I did like this one just for the fact that I wanted to see Caillou finish last year, so it's good to see him do it this year. He's also now the youngest finisher because I think he's a few months younger than Nakashima was when he finished last year. So good for him on that. Then Nakashima took his one with him getting the fastest clear of the season. Then we had the only fail on Stage 2, Yamamoto Kaitaro, which I don't even know what the fuck happened here. Yeah, he also went out on the bowling log last year, which really just makes me laugh my fucking ass off. Yeah. Then we got Miyoko Uezuki, who cleared with 8 seconds left. Tomohiro Kawaguchi, who also cleared. Yamamoto Yoshiyuki, who cleared as well. And Yuske Morimoto, who cleared as well. I don't think it really matters all that much that, all the finishers on the Japanese side. Yeah. Yeah, aside from Kaitaro, who I do think was a surprise, and then Caillou, but no one cares. Like, Stage 2, we're not even gonna be over 15 minutes, if I'm being honest here. We can complain. So moving on to the international competitors, we had Tim Champion and Josh Levin, who both cleared the course with no problems. It was really nice to see Tim do this because he's a bigger guy, so it was kind of cool to see a guy that big go through stuff like do the backstream and whatnot, so that was neat. Then we had Benjamin Grams, who was the only fail, him failing on the salmon ladder, him failing on the down-up salmon ladder. After that, we had Ashlyn Herbert and Daniel Gill, who did really well, obviously. I think I really expected either of them to have any trouble, and they didn't, so... Yeah, that's Stage 2 for you. Yeah, I feel like, I will admit, we didn't really watch back any of these ones, but, like, who cares? Like, I am heavily disappointed with Stage 2 at this point. Even more so with the fact that we don't even have A&W, which had a better Stage 2 than this at this point. Like, we don't have that anymore to at least live a day, and it's literally just this Stage 2 that I've hated for over, ever since I started watching Sasuke. I'm just like... I don't like Stage 2. I haven't liked Stage 2 since Sasuke 27, and I don't even know what's with it at this point. I just don't like it. I don't like this form of the stage. I really feel like they should take from A&W and make it more of an agility-based course with, less to do with, having it be a time waster, and also maybe cut down that time limit. Yeah, admittedly enough, people, we didn't have any outrageously fast clears in this course, and a lot of people were really wanting on the edge of the clock here. But I feel like we just could have done better. I mean, Ashwin and Nakashima had kind of fast times here. Yeah, I feel like stage 2, if nothing else, if they're not gonna do anything, lower the time limit. This doesn't cost extra money. Just do that. I feel like that would just help a lot. Just cause a lot more people to have to go fast, and it might make the course just feel a lot more fun to watch. I don't know. I also just don't feel like the stage 2 course is fun to watch. That's another point I want to make. I don't think it's a fun course to watch. Like, it's really boring. Like, this was my least favorite part of the podcast. Yeah, and then we got stage 3, which also kind of was, a bad part of the broadcast as well. Yeah, I will definitely say stage 3 is pretty lame in this season, like, no doubt. We had no changes to the entire course, where we still have the flying bar, the sidewinder, the swing edge with the Y grip, the cliffhanger dimension, and then the vertical limit burst and pipe slider. I feel like with stage 3 we don't really need changes, but I feel like the sidewinder could probably go at this point. Yeah, but we did say that last year as well. Very fair. I guess just going to the ones real quick. I feel like it's kind of. I think the results here were pretty surprising. Where the swing edge took out a lot of people. A lot of people took out both Caillou and Nakashima, which fucking blew there. Yeah, I was hoping Nakashima might be able to quit the cliffhanger. Like, I honestly want him to prove to me that he can do it. Yeah, it's interesting thing there. Swing Edge was also the end of the one for Ryozuke, which really fucking sucked. That blew my mind. Yeah, after last year, I was so sure he was going straight back to stage 4 because this course was no different from the one he did last year. Like, I was so sure it was to be him and Yusuke in the final stage, and maybe even Gil too. Yeah, definitely. So, kind of a shock there. Then we had Kawaguchi, who I don't even know what the fuck happened. He fell in the flying ball. Like, what the frick, people? Yeah. I was at least expecting him to get to the cliffhanger. This is just fucking weird. Yeah, definitely. This is also the first flying ball fail in a while, so it's just weird. Yeah, after that we have Yamamoto Yoshiyuki, who was the... after that we had Yamamoto Yoshiyuki, who went out on the second transition on the cliffhanger. Again. Yeah, that was kind of a shock if I'm being honest. I was kind of expecting a clear out of him as well. He hasn't even been able to try the vertical limit burst, so we don't even know how he'd do on it. But honestly, I would have loved to have seen it this time around. Yeah, I would call it a huge disappointment. I think before we cover Yusuke, we can cover the international people really quick. First, we got Tim Champion, who fell on the swing edge. I think it just comes down to his build for the stage 3, and even he was saying it early on, where he was saying, like, when everyone was talking about how the vertical limit burst was so, and he's like, I'm falling over there, and that's funny to me. Like, I don't know, just the fact that he already knew that he probably wouldn't be able to do that, but he was still there for the fun of it. Yeah, definitely, for sure. Kind of unfortunate this is probably his limit, but it's a situation where he might get step up his training because of the whole he gets on the Sasuke thing. Maybe he'd go a little further with a little more training. And then we got probably my favorite one on stage 3, like favorite person to see, Josh Levin. This was a really fun one to watch. Yeah, this one definitely shows me that maybe Josh could go to the final stage. Like, no doubt. I feel like he might have a shot. You never know. Yeah, I mean, we don't know how he'd do on a vertical limit, but he's a climber. Like, I feel like there's no doubt he has the grip strength for it. I'm really curious to see him on a vertical limit. Sucks we didn't do it this year. Yeah, Levin got fairly close where he got to the second transition of the cliffhanger, but he looked like he kind of had it, but he messed up his timing just a little bit, so he kind of was swinging off cycle and fell right there, so that was kind of unfortunate, but still good to see him on stage 3. I feel like out of all the international people from this season, and the new ones, I feel like he should definitely be invited back, like, no doubt. I feel like he is probably the only person in this lot I feel like can actually go further than the cliffhanger and, like, might actually be able to go to the third stage. Like, I know we'll get to Gil in a half a second here, but I feel like we shouldn't be sleeping on Josh Levin. I feel like he could be the person to get us an American on stage 4 finally. Yeah, definitely for sure. After that, we had Ashlyn Herbert, who went on the cliffhanger. Same place he went out in the World Cup. I don't think there's really much notable there, but it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, I think it's a situation where I feel like his limit is the cliffhanger. I don't really know if he can really get past it, but again, since he was here again, I feel like there's a possibility he might up his training to possibly get past it. After that, we had probably the most tragic one on stage story, at least in my opinion. We had Daniel Gill. Very unfortunate that this happened. Gill, the last couple of tournaments, and then the World Cup as well, he has fallen on the second transition to the cliffhanger, which has mostly just been things with the timing. Gill has admitted that he thinks the timing is very tough. So there was a lot waiting on this for him to clear, and we already had the one to where it was a little sloppy, where he was a little sloppy on the swing edge, similar to last year, but thankfully he didn't have a one-handed save again. But in addition to that, by that point, it really just seemed like he overgripped on a couple things, because when he got to the cliffhanger, he really was emphasizing on timing to where he went when the cliffhanger was already heading down, meaning that it was a harder drop for him to catch. But when I was really watching it back, I kind of realized that he was doing that on purpose to where the second cliffhanger, if everything had gone white, it would have been white there for him. So I get what he was doing. But unfortunately, he slipped off on the first transition. He was definitely upset with that one. I definitely think Gil has the drive to maybe clear sometime. Like, I don't know if he can do the vertical limit. I honestly feel like he can't. But at the same time, though, I feel like Gil, because he's been here so many times, he's kind of similar to Drew, where he's gained a secret determination to want to beat Sasuke and, get an American on stage 4. I mean, I feel like that was a big hope I've been having for years now, and especially with the Midoriyama in the West here, like, and especially, again, Levin and Gil came, I feel like they are pretty close to being able to do it here. Like, I feel like both of them have huge chances to do it. So, honestly, next year, if both of them are invited back, which they should be, I hope they're gonna kill it. Oh, yeah. Same here. Like, I want to see Gil on stage 4 more than anything else in this world. Like, he deserves it. The dedication that Gil puts into the sport, especially since he's getting older and stuff, it would be so cool if Gil could claim a Kanzen here in Japan. I don't know how doable it is for him to claim a Kanzen in Japan, but I want to see him on stage 4 just to know, but again, it just comes down to vertical limit, and, I just don't know. I have no idea, Yeah, I feel like that would be the type of thing where, like, I want to, like, interview Gil on the stuff, like, on the vertical limit. Can he do it? Like, how much of vertical limit does he really train? And I think it also comes with Levin, too. How much vertical limit do these two really train? Because that's what it's going to come down to in terms of them maybe getting to stage 4 someday. Because I have no doubt that both of them will probably do the cliffhanger. Like, once both of them get the timing down, they definitely have the grip strength for that part. But, like, again, if they get there, I want to see it. Like, I think at this point, I am desperate to see Gil on the bus. Like, I want to see how he do. And Levin, I think he has the grip strength for it. Like, Gil, I'm a little wary about, but Levin, I feel like he can get the stage 4, like I said before. Like, God damn it. Fuck. Yeah, I know. I think it comes down to the ambiguity in both these ninjas in terms of their possibilities in the future of Sasuke. Like, that's what really makes it worthwhile that Levin was here, and then Gil, obviously, he's been doing this the last couple years here. We want to make it happen for him. Yeah, definitely. After Gil, yeah, so after that, of course we have Yuske Morimoto, the only one we haven't talked about. I don't really call this one remarkable. I do think it was cool. Like, at the end of it all, seeing him finally clear the burst, something that he hasn't done the last couple times, and he's failed it 3 times, and he really seemed to finally get the technique down. But I don't care as much. It's so weird. I feel like I would care more if someone else had cleared it with them. Like, again, if Ryuzuke got back there, and same with Yoshiyuki or something, or like we were just saying, Gil and Levin. Like, I feel like I would have cared more if Yusuke would have went with them, but because Yusuke is the only person to even get to the bus in the first place, let alone the clear, like, I don't care as much, which is really weird for me to say because I love Yusuke as a competitor. Yeah, I feel like it's the type of thing to where he just doesn't really feel like he can do much more in the sport, despite how difficult it is to get there. Yeah, definitely. I guess that means we can move on to the final stage, which, was just Yusuke. I don't really think this was an impressive one. There was a weird thought of just, like, we're probably getting a cons in here. Like, I was so sure we were getting a cons in. But, unfortunately, this ended up ending just like how Sasuke 40 ended, where Yusuke had a pretty good one all the way up. Where he had a fast speed climb, but the Samurai felt fairly slow. Like, honestly, it really felt like he was going slow in the Samurai. And that kind of caught him up. And then the rope was pretty good too, but he timed out just before the top. Very similar to last time. This time I think he might have been like a hair below where he was last time. To where this time around, it just he didn't look as close as in Sasuke 40, really comparing the two. And yeah, that's how this tournament ends, which I really do feel like is a stinker. Like, I really do feel like we should have gotten a cons in here. Yeah, and, that would have broke a lot of ground, Yusuke being able to Kanzen again, like, 3 Kanzens, how many more could he get, Yeah, so I feel like this definitely proves that I feel like next tournament, as long as everything goes right, I think Yusuke could probably Kanzen next tournament. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I don't even know why he didn't Kanzen here. This is the same final stage he did in 40. I just don't really know what happened. Yeah, like, you think he would have, improved his endurance enough just to get up there. So, it is really strange. But either way, like, it's still, like, really weird. Like, it really brings up the question of, can he push through it? Yeah, I feel like there's no doubt that he can because, he's gotten very close twice now. But I also just feel like, I don't know. I'm not really sure on this one. It's not like a situation to where where he got to this final stage 35 and 36 and then quit in 38. Well, in 35 and 36, it was a gradual progression. Here, it's just the same thing happens again, so it really does make me question personally, is he capable of really going higher than that? That's the big one right there. Yeah, definitely. That's it, though. That's Sasuke 43. This recording was about as long as the others, actually. Yeah, stage 1 only took an hour for us to cover, while the world round and everything else took a combined 40 minutes. So yeah, a little bit shorter than last time, which makes a lot of sense, to be fair. But yeah, you guys have any final thoughts on the tournament? I don't know, it's kind of a weird thought because I feel like this tournament was a little more of a letdown than last time, despite me enjoying stage 1 a lot more. Like, we came into this tournament kind of expecting a full renewal, and we did not get that. Like, stage 1 got a fair bit of changes in retrospect, and the first obstacle was cool. But I do think it sucks that, stage 2 got no changes, and stage 3 got nothing as well. Like, I know stage 3 doesn't need it, but still, like, I feel like this stage 3 is a little stale. Like, we need to just take the Sidewinder out. Yeah, I don't really feel like the Sidewinder does enough damage. And the flying bar too. Like, I feel like both those obstacles can go. Like, everything else can kind of stay, but those two, I feel like we need a reinventing for those 2 obstacles. Yeah, maybe just bring back some classic obstacles. I don't know. Like, I just feel like there's a lot of things you could put in there that would make that beginning of the stage more entertaining and just overall make it more worth it to travel through that part. Yeah, definitely for sure. But I think that kind of calls it. I don't think there's much more to go on about. Again, like, I liked this tournament as a whole. Like, there was some really good moments. Like, I feel like the progression of it was really fun. It's just, I feel like it's a tournament that won't be good on a second watching because it was really, us not knowing the results was the big thing for this one, to where, there was the dread on this course that the weather created for stage 1. I feel like that kind of just carries this tournament, or the rest of it really wasn't interesting to watch, where, The world round was definitely just carried by the amount of deep cut picks. But after that, the tournament kind of became a stinker to where, again, stage 2 was nothing, aside from Caillou's one. And then stage 3 was not really that interesting. I feel like aside from Levin and Gil, I really didn't care how anyone did here. And, it's nice that Yusuke cleared and everything, and I do think having Ryozuke fall on the Sidewinder fall on Swing Edge is pretty surprising, but what you gonna do? I don't think it really matters that much. I don't think it's really that interesting. That's it, everyone. That's Sasuke 43. Yeah, so, in the next episode, we are, I think we're doing College Madness, actually, in the schedule. Hold on a sec, give me a minute here. He's pulling up the schedule. I want to know. I don't really remember what we're doing next. Didn't we just establish it last time, though? Give me a minute. Hold on. So, yeah, the next episode is going to be College Madness. That's what I thought. Yep. So, yeah, I had to pull up the schedule for this one. So, College Madness is coming up next. That's going to be probably a very short podcast. I wouldn't expect us to be on that too long. Yeah, College Madness is pretty decent, but it's mostly just to add obligation because I wanted to cover all the Team Ninja seasons when we started that project, so probably will be a fairly short podcast. Yeah, afterwards, there's also the Women's Championships 24 and 25. That'll come afterwards. I can also see the episode being swapped with College Madness, too. Depending on what we want to record first, it really is no matter what the order is, but those are the next 2 episodes. I feel like Team Ninja Season 2, we mentioned wanted to cover that, but we're only partway through the season at the moment, so I feel like it's more likely that won't come until after NW18 coverage is finished for us, so I feel like it might be a much longer time to you guys see that one, but, maybe we might have time during a little bit before the off-season. You never know. Maybe we'll finish the second season early, so that way we can, cover it right before the season begins. And you never know. Yeah, possibility, never let time stop you. Yeah, I also want to note, too, that our coverage of AW18 will definitely be the same way we did 17, to where it's more of a brief recap, where we just talk about our opinions and feelings about the individual episodes, but we're not really going deep diving into it. Especially with this season, I'm more having curiosity than anything else about how it's gonna go. I've heard some things from my people who have been there. I've heard some really interesting news over the course of a couple days here, but again, I feel like it's not worth going into at the current moment. In the future, I do feel like I might drag up a list of the competitors, and maybe we could do a podcast to talk about some of the ninjas who are competing, and more about the format, and make some general predictions about how it's going to go, but I don't even know if we're going to do that, if I'm being real here. We might just wait until the season actually premieres and do that like we did last year. We're going to have to see what happens. But, again, it's going to be a very lax coverage of the season. I feel like the more serious projects we're going to be doing this year are the Team Ninja stuff. That we're going to do throughout the year. And in terms of the podcasts, I feel like we might try to cover one of the international specials, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to make any promises at the very moment just because timing on our schedules, but maybe sometime in the future. Yeah, we've always wanted to cover the Four Nations special and just international specials in general, so maybe we can do an international catch-up just so that way we can, because there's a lot of specials we just have never watched as a group and would be fun to cover on the podcast. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of videos on my side that I could talk about too. I mentioned a lot of our schedule in the last episode of the podcast, and there wasn't really anything new I want to add to that. There's other ideas I have for sure, but I kind of want to wait till we get through what I've already have scheduled, and then I can talk about those ideas. So, I think we're just going to wait from here. So, yeah, I think that's it for this episode of the Enjoy Podcast. I think I kind of dragged on that outro, but, yeah, I don't really know how to end this. Well, just do it. Say your line. Alright. If you want to end it so badly. Alright, we'll see you guys next time. Next time for, College Madness. Or possibly the Women's Championships. But, I think it's more likely to be Charge Madness next. We'll have to see. We'll give you guys updates on that. It's not really meant to come out till March, so we'll keep you guys posted on it. So see you guys next time. Peace.